revealed how one little girl's momentous job interview turns into an incredible life lesson for Emma. As Emma stood in front of the ice cream shop, the usual airy delight of sugar cones and sprinkles was overshadowed by the weight of uncertainty. Tomorrow was her big interview with Mr. Thompson, and all she could think about was how the fondest dreams often drift further away when draped in clouds of doubt. Could she really convince him that a 10-year-old girl was capable of handling the responsibilities of the ice cream shop? A fire flickered inside her, igniting desperation to secure the job that would allow her to save up for a dream vacation with her mother, but fear gripped her heart like a tightening vice. She closed her eyes, recalling her mother's words of encouragement, the way Sarah had always raised her to believe that dreams were worth chasing, no matter the obstacles. But what her mother could never fully understand was the sheer power Mr. Thompson wielded in town, how his old-school beliefs could snuff out the fires of ambition. A part of her wasn't just anxious, it was terrified. What if he looked at her, incredulous, and sent her away simply because she was a child? What if despite all the stirring fervor in her heart, she wasn't enough? As storm clouds gathered outside, Emma felt the impending dread swell within her. Moments of panic flickered through her mind. She could already imagine Mr. Thompson's skeptical gaze, his disquieting belief that only adults could grasp the realities of running a business. A quiet voice circled in her head, a whisper that clawed at her spirit. What if she mistook her eagerness for capability? What if her dreams were nothing but fanciful illusions? Before she could spiral further, she inhaled deeply, grounding herself in memories of Mrs. Jenkins, the elderly neighbor who often shared tales of courage against unyielding odds. Stepping up is daunting, dear, Mrs. Jenkins would say, but it's at the edge of fear that you find who you are meant to be. The words resonated as a reminder of her identity, Emma, the fearless girl who wanted to be more than just a kid with big dreams. The air in their small house felt charged as the storm broke loose, rattling windows and echoing through her thoughts, but Emma leaned into the chaos. Together with her mom, they triaged the rainwater flooding the basement of their home. Each puddle conquered felt like a small battle won, and she was reminded that even in desperate times, they could pull together. Yet as she faced the ice cream shop again later that day, memories of the storm mingled with an unsettling undercurrent of dread. Would her efforts be enough? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The next morning dawned dreary and soaked, her resolve heavy like the humidity in the air. With each step towards the ice cream shop, her heart thudded in rhythm with the steady rain. Inside, the faint smell of vanilla clashed with the chill of her uncertainty. Mr. Thompson's disdain for hiring children flickered in her mind. The confrontation she anticipated twisted her stomach into a tight knot. The world outside blurred as she steeled herself to face not just his judgments, but her own nagging insecurities. Emma took a breath before stepping through the door, her resolve firming. Today, she would challenge the limits of her childhood. The uncertainty of tomorrow loomed large, but what if, just on the other side of fear, stood the possibility of change? Would she find the courage within herself to prove that dreams could be tangible and not reserved for the adults? The tension hung thick around her, and with it, the understanding that the coming moments might just carve her path into a realm where dreams morphed into reality or collapsed into fear. All she knew was that she was ready to unravel that story, even if it took everything she had. Emma stood at the threshold of the ice cream shop, fully aware that the moment of truth was poised to unfold before her. The rain that had drenched the town mirrored the turmoil within her heart. A sense of foreboding nudged at her insides. She needed to focus, to transform the anxiety coursing through her veins into determination. She took a steadying breath, reciting the words of encouragement she had practiced over and over in her mind. She had something to prove not just to Mr. Thompson, but to herself. As she entered the shop, the familiar sounds of the bell jingling above the door mingled with her racing thoughts. Her gaze darted around, taking in the colorful tubs of ice cream, the cheerful decor, and the workspace that she so desperately wanted to claim as her own. But then it settled on Mr. Thompson, who stood behind the counter, his arms crossed and a skeptical expression etched on his face. With his towering presence, he seemed to loom larger than life, an intimidating gatekeeper to her aspirations. "Ah, Emma," he said, his voice gravelly yet inquisitive. "I see you came after all. What brings you here today?" In that moment, Emma felt the weight of her resolve solidify with clarity. This was her shot. She wouldn't allow fear to dictate her future. She summoned the courage buried within her chest, standing a bit taller, adopting a confident stance. "Mr. Thompson, I'm here to apply for the job you posted. I may be 10, but I believe I can bring something unique to your shop." He raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. "And what exactly can a child like you bring to an ice cream shop?" Her heartbeat quickened, but she pressed on. "I can learn quickly, and I'm not afraid of hard work. I've watched my mother manage our home even when times got tough. She taught me how to solve problems, treat people with kindness, and keep things organized." Each word spilled from her lips with a passion she hoped conveyed her determination. Mr. Thompson studied her, and for a moment, she feared he might dismiss her outright. But then, the slightest hint of curiosity flickered in his eyes. "You think you can handle the responsibilities of this job? There's a lot to manage, from inventory to customer service. It's not just about scooping ice cream." "I understand that," Emma replied, feeling the fire within her spark further. "And I'm ready to learn. I can help keep the shop running smoothly and ensure each customer leaves happy. It's important to me that people enjoy their time here. I believe that even a small gesture like a smile can make a difference in someone's day." "Very well, then," Mr. Thompson said, his voice steadier now, though still skeptical. "If you want to prove your worth, let us see how willing you are." Emma's insides quaked with both excitement and trepidation. His next words might shape her experience here. "I want you to help out for the day. Let us see how you handle it. If you impress me, we'll talk about the position." Adrenaline surged through her, igniting an unexpected optimism. This was what she wanted, a chance to show him what she was capable of. It was just the beginning, but the stakes felt higher than any challenge she had faced before. As she began her tasks, serving customers and practicing her smile, a revelation blossomed inside her. The job wouldn't just be a means to save for vacation, it was about proving to herself that she could navigate the world as an empowered young adult. By the end of the day, after customers had come and gone, Emma found herself drenched in both sweat and satisfaction. Would she succeed in showing Mr. Thompson her worth? The seeds of doubt still lingered at the back of her mind, making her pulse race with anticipation. But one thing was clear, she had stepped beyond her fears and into an arena where she could shape her reality. The evening shift ended with Mr. Thompson looking intrigued but uncommitted. As he prepared to leave, he turned to Emma. "You've surprised me today, but don't think you're done convincing me yet. Tomorrow, you come back, and we'll continue this discussion." Emma felt a surge of resolve. The edges of her dream were just within reach, ready to transform into something real. And thus, a new journey awaited her, one where she would have to forge ahead, not just to win a job, but to win the belief of others, and ultimately, her own. What hurdles would she face in proving herself to Mr. Thompson, and could she rise to the occasion again? The next day loomed with promise, but uncertainty clung to her aspirations, eager to challenge her newfound confidence. Emma awoke the next morning with a buzzing anticipation coursing through her veins. The sunlight streamed through her window, illuminating the room and casting playful shadows on the walls. Today was the day to return to the ice cream shop, and she could feel the weight of the decision looming large in front of her again. She had proven herself yesterday, but that small victory came with its own set of expectations. As she dressed, she practiced her speech in the mirror. "I'm here to work hard and make customers smile," she recited, adjusting her hair with a determined nod. Each word became a mantra, reinforcing her ambition. She envisioned Mr. Thompson's skeptical expression softening as she demonstrated her potential. But fear still nagged in the corners of her mind. What if yesterday was just a fluke? What if she failed to meet his expectations today? With those thoughts swirling, Emma pushed herself out the door and headed toward the shop. The usual sights and sounds of the town felt strangely amplified. Children played in the park as she passed, their carefree laughter starkly contrasting her focused demeanor. Despite her apprehension, she was determined to carve out her niche in this bustling world. Upon entering the shop, Emma was greeted by the enticing aroma of waffle cones baking, a sensory reminder of why she was there. Mr. Thompson stood behind the counter, his usual gruff exterior in place. Yet, there was a flicker of something close to respect in his eyes as he caught her gaze. "You're back," he said without preamble. "I am," Emma replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "Good. We're getting busy for the day. Today, you'll manage the front with me. Watch how I handle customers, inventory, and all the chaos that comes with a busy afternoon. Keep your eyes open." The challenge elevated the stakes in Emma's mind. It wasn't merely about serving ice cream, it was about managing expectations, juggling demands, and navigating customer needs. Every interaction would require focus and confidence. Could she really handle that? Emma nodded firmly, prepared to absorb every lesson. The first customer approached the counter, and she watched Mr. Thompson in action. He greeted the customer with genuine warmth, taking the time to listen. There was a rhythm to the way he moved, efficient and purposeful. Emma focused intently, noting how he emphasized the flavors, allowing the customer's preferences to guide the conversation. After a few transactions, Mr. Thompson turned to her. "Your turn. Show me what you've learned." Fear prickled at Emma's nerves. She took a deep breath, recalling how Mr. Thompson engaged his customers. With cautious optimism, she stepped forward as the next family approached. "Hi there. Welcome to Thompson's Ice Cream. What can I get started for you today?" she said, channeling all of Mr. Thompson's techniques but adding her own enthusiasm. As they placed their orders, she felt the smile on her face broaden, the feedback positive and encouraging. It was working, she was doing it. Each scoop turned into a moment of connection, and each happy customer became a small victory, her confidence reinfusing with every interaction. But just as her enthusiasm began to blossom, chaos erupted. A sudden rush of customers surged through the door, their voices blending into an overwhelming thunder. Emma's heart raced. She watched as Mr. Thompson adeptly handled the chaos, his movements a blur of efficiency. "Don't freeze up," he called to her as he slid past. "Stay focused, and just keep going." That was her moment to dig deep and rise to the challenge. She remembered how her mother had tackled each day, refusing to let obstacles overshadow her determination. With newfound clarity, Emma engaged each customer as if they were the only one in the shop, gaining momentum as the rush continued. Yet, amidst the flurry, an unexpected twist unraveled. A little girl approached the counter, her eyes wide and uncertain. "I want chocolate, but I am scared of the big line." Emma saw a reflection of her own fear in the child's face. This wasn't just about ice cream. It was about instilling courage. "You're doing great," Emma said gently. "And guess what? I can help you. Let us pick the best scoop together, okay?" The little girl nodded hesitantly, and as Emma leaned down to echo kindness and warmth, she felt a jolt of conviction surge within her. This wasn't merely a job. It was about building relationships, about caring, and about making others feel valued. As the afternoon sun dipped low and the rush finally settled, Mr. Thompson approached her with a new glint in his eye. "I didn't expect you to handle the pressure like that." "Impressive." Emma's heart soared but quickly reminded herself that there were still hurdles ahead. "Thank you, but I want to do even better," she replied, her voice carrying the weight of her aspirations. "Good," he nodded. "Because you'll have more chances and harder challenges coming your way. Are you ready for that?" A tremor of excitement mixed with apprehension surged through her. "Yes, I'm ready." In that moment, Emma realized that this job was about more than proving her worth, it was about embracing her evolution. Forces beyond her control would emerge, but with them came opportunities to learn and grow. She wondered what those next challenges would reveal about her. As she sorted through the remaining orders, a shift in the air hinted at the reality of newfound responsibility, anticipation buzzing in her bones. The moment felt closer, reality waiting to unfold. Would Mr. Thompson throw the next test her way? Emma felt ready, yet uncertain, knowing that each day held the potential to unearth unknown sides of herself and shape her future irrevocably. The next challenge was just around the corner, ready to test her resolve. Emma stood behind the counter the following day, the familiar sight of the shop enveloping her in a comforting predictability. Yet, today wasn't about comfort, it was about growth. She repeated her mantra in her head, "I'm here to work hard and make customers smile," determined not to let the weight of yesterday's success anchor her down. Emma's heart beat steadily with anticipation for what Mr. Thompson had in store. As the door swung open, she caught sight of the familiar faces, regulars and newcomers alike. Yet, beyond them, her eyes widened at the sight of a group of teenagers huddled at the entrance, their chatter and laughter filling the air with a different energy. Just new customers, she told herself, reminding herself of her purpose. She had to stretch beyond her last performance, to adapt and take on whatever challenges awaited. Mr. Thompson arrived, his demeanor as focused as always. "We're going to introduce some new flavors today," he announced, a spark igniting in his voice. "You'll pitch them to the customers as they come in. Use everything you've learned." Emma blinked, eyebrows shooting upward in surprise. Selling new ice cream flavors required not only confidence but also an ability to think on her feet, read customer reactions, and adapt her approach in real time. Suddenly, the exhilaration from yesterday felt like a distant memory, their fleeting sweetness overshadowed by anxiety's bitter edge. "Are you ready for that?" Mr. Thompson pressed, his eyebrows arching expectantly. "Absolutely," she managed, though a wave of uncertainty rippled through her. Emma took a deep breath, mentally shedding the fear that could bind her creativity. She could do this. As the first wave of customers entered, she met each smile with her own, her voice welcoming. "Welcome to Thompson's Ice Cream. We have some exciting new flavors. Have you tried our lavender honey or the spicy mango?" She watched their expressions, gauging interest. A young man raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Lavender honey? That sounds weird. Does it taste good?" The question felt like a challenge. "It's surprisingly refreshing," Emma responded, her tone infused with enthusiasm. "The lavender balances out the sweetness of the honey. You'll love it. Plus, it's perfect for summer." Their laughter and playful banter encouraged her, feeding her growing confidence. As she moved through orders, Emma felt a rhythm settle in each scoop, a note in a symphony of flavors and interactions harmonizing into a bustling afternoon. Yet just as the momentum built, the teenagers she noticed earlier ambled to the counter. Their careless demeanor built a nervous weight in her chest. They were the type of crowd she felt would easily turn judgmental. One of them, dressed in a sports jersey, stepped forward. "What do you recommend, huh?" He smirked, clearly pushing for a reaction. Emma kept her composure, her voice steady. "I'd recommend the spicy mango if you're feeling adventurous. It has a kick that surprises you." The laughter from the group shifted, they exchanged glances that Emma couldn't fully interpret. An internal tension built. "What is it like? Bet you can't handle it?" Scoffed another, folding his arms in a challenge. She felt the heat of their scrutiny, every eye dissecting her. An urge to back down crept in, but she fought it. "Why don't you try it and find out?" she countered, a calculated spark igniting within her. "But grab some lavender honey as a chaser, it's great for balancing the heat." To her surprise, the group visibly paused, taken aback by her tone. Gaining momentum, she continued, "You might not think it will work, but it's a combination like summer and sunshine, a strange pair that turns out fantastic." When they finally accepted her proposal, Emma felt a rush of triumph. Each transaction was not just a scoop served, but trust gained. A moment of thinking back on before she started this job made her realize how this had transformed her from a timid teen into someone unafraid of embracing challenges. As the afternoon finally slowed, Mr. Thompson approached her again. "You really impressed them," he said, some camaraderie evident in his voice. "Thanks," Emma replied, a quiet swell of pride replacing her nerves. "I just thought about what I would want to hear when I'm unsure." Mr. Thompson nodded sagely. "That's the key to this job, Emma. Remembering what it felt like to be in their shoes. Each interaction is a chance to uplift or undercut. You're ready for the responsibility." She felt the weight of his words settle in her chest, expanding her understanding of the role she played beyond just scooping ice cream. She was cultivating moments, tiny, precious exchanges that could reshape someone's day. Still, as she glanced out the window to see a towering storm cloud rolling in, a twist of apprehension stirred within her. What happens when it's not just kids being picky? What if I can't make everyone happy? Emma wondered what else this job would ask of her, how many more moments she would have to reflect on her fears and take risks. This role had the potential to reveal parts of her she was just beginning to understand. Would the storm mean more than just rain? And how would she face the next challenge, fiercely waiting to unveil her courage? As the ominous clouds gathered outside, Emma's thoughts spiraled into a tight vortex of anxiety. She had experienced the thrill of overcoming obstacles earlier that day, yet now uncertainty clawed at her resolve. What weight did this job truly hold, and what burdens lay ahead? The storm clouds seemed to mirror her internal conflict, pressing in on her with every tick of the clock. When the rush of customers fell silent, Emma's focus turned inward. Though her previous encounter with the teenagers had solidified her confidence, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was on the brink of an even greater test. Mr. Thompson's words resonated in her mind. Were they merely sweet platitudes, or did they carry a deeper truth about her potential? Just as her nervousness threatened to consume her, the cafe door swung open again. A new group strode in, animated and boisterous, their laughter filling the shop with an overwhelming sense of magnetic energy. They were carefree, vibrant, and shockingly loud compared to earlier patrons. They didn't just come for ice cream, they seemed to deliberately seek attention. As they approached the counter, Emma's stomach twisted. The ringleader, an expressive girl with curly hair and a booming voice, leaned over the counter, her smile daring. "All right, what's the scoop? What's the best flavor you have?" The question hung in the air like a challenge, echoing in Emma's mind. She could sense judgment in their poised demeanor. This was not merely about tasting ice cream, it felt like an interrogation. Gathering her composure, Emma remembered her mantra. "Our spicy mango is a favorite." "It's an unexpected blend of heat and sweetness," she started, her voice dipping into the practiced enthusiasm she had developed. Instead of faltering under their gaze, she embraced the attention, buoyed by the potential for connection. "So if I die from eating this, can I sue?" Another member of the group teased, chuckling as the others joined in. Emma felt the heat rise to her cheeks, but instead of retreating, she responded with a light laugh, allowing the moment to breathe. "I can't promise you one feel the burn, but if you need a safety net, I'll throw in a scoop of lavender honey to cool down the flames." They reacted as if she had thrown down a gauntlet. To her surprise, the playful banter escalated, laughter bouncing between them. Behind the teasing, she sensed their affirmations of acceptance. This was no longer a test of flavor but a test of her spirit. When they ultimately chose the spicy mango, Emma scooped it with pride, feeling a rush of empowerment. Here she was, engaging with a crowd that could have easily overwhelmed her, yet she was matching their energy with humor and kindness. Similarly, each laugh shared felt like an antidote to her earlier anxieties. As the last orders were filled and the shifts in mood settled with her, she glanced back at Mr. Thompson, who observed the exchange with a knowing smile. He seemed to catch the spark of change igniting within her. There was something liberating in this realization, the acknowledgement of her growth transforming her fears into energy. Yet, as the shop began to quiet once again, an unsettling thought arose. For every group that responded positively, what would happen if the next encountered her with cold indifference? Or worse, outright hostility? What if they chose to mock instead of engage? Emma wiped down the counter, her mind racing with possibilities. The day had greatly enhanced her skills, but she knew it was only the beginning. Each scenario felt like a monster hiding behind the door, waiting to test her newfound courage, waiting to strike at the moments she felt most vulnerable. Would she crumble or face the shadows head-on? As Emma pondered these questions, the storm outside writhed in furious anticipation, mirroring her own tumultuous thoughts. This was not just about ice cream anymore, it was about stakes greater than she had anticipated, a maze of self-revelation she had to navigate through a thunderous landscape of doubt. And as she finally stepped outside, the first drops of rain punctuated the air, leaving Emma to contemplate one unsettling truth: storms never just passed, they transformed everything in their path. What would she become once the clouds finally cleared? Emma walked through the rainy streets, her mind churning with questions she didn't have answers to. Each raindrop seemed to echo her growing uncertainty, tapping against her thoughts like persistent fingers urging her to take stock. The world around her felt alive, the storm not just a backdrop but a participant in her internal struggle. How could she transform her brief moments of triumph into something sustainable? With her heart still racing from the earlier encounter, she realized the playful banter had not only been a reflection of those teens' energy but an intrinsic part of her own persona, a part she had all too often buried beneath layers of self-doubt. As she approached her apartment, a new thought hit her with renewed intensity: each interaction going forward would be a chance for growth, a chance to unveil who she truly was beneath the apprehension. Did she dare to step outside the box of her conventional self and embrace the quirkiness of her humor? Shaking off the last of the rain, Emma hung her damp jacket in the hallway before plopping down at her kitchen table. A half-eaten cupcake sat on a plate, remnants from the cafe's dessert lineup. She stared at it, pondering how it symbolized more than sugary indulgence. It held the essence of opportunity, risk, and reward. Just like her career, pondering over the day's experiences, a rush of realization crystallized: it wasn't just about selling ice cream. Her role extended beyond scooping flavors, it encompassed connection, empathy, and authenticity. Every transaction could be rewritten as a narrative of touchpoints with individuals, each one offering a chance to shine. The thought led her to consider what limitations she had unwittingly set upon herself. When overwhelmed, had she resorted to timidness instead of facing challenges with spirited tenacity? The truth loomed large: she had unknowingly placed barriers around her potential. The realization stung, yet it ignited determination. Emma started drafting a list on a notepad: skills to develop. It spanned more than just ice cream mechanics. Her list included public speaking, empathy training, and humor workshops. It was no longer just about surviving customer interactions, it was a strategy for thriving in the chaos she had previously feared. As thoughts raced through her mind, she felt an underlying thread of anxiety. These goals seemed ambitious, perhaps even daunting, but she was ready to act. The first step would be to seek mentorship, someone who could help her refine her ideas and provide guidance to polish her newfound strengths. Just as she envisioned reaching out to Mr. Thompson for advice, her phone buzzed with a message. Automatically, her heart raced, wondering if it was a word from the teens, a note of appreciation, or a test. Instead, it was a notification for an upcoming community meeting on entrepreneurial workshops, spearheaded by local leaders. This could be the opportunity she was waiting for, a chance to expand her horizons, gather insights, and more importantly, confront her fears in front of strangers. She felt a flicker of excitement mixed with fear. Yet, the internal conflict poked at her conscience. Was she ready to leap? To intentionally thrust herself into a space where possibilities and judgments coexisted? The looming question hung thick in the air: seize the chance or shrink back into the comfort of the familiar. Emma clenched her fists, resolving to step forward, despite her body's desire to retreat. She jotted down "sign up for the meeting" with a bold line underneath. The thunder outside rumbled louder, almost a clarion call echoing her decision. As she took a deep breath to steady her resolve, she understood one pivotal truth: transformation isn't just about navigating external storms, it's about forging the courage to confront her internal ones. A newfound mantra began to churn within her: it's time to embrace the storm. Now, standing on the precipice of possibility, she planned to venture out into that community space, opening herself up to the unpredictable reactions of new people. How would they respond to her unfiltered self? Would they celebrate her authenticity, or would judgment rain down as heavily as the storm outside? Determined, Emma readied herself for the challenge ahead, heart racing in anticipation, unaware that the next encounter could push her beyond the limits she had set. Would she master this hurdle, or would her bravado cost her the light she had begun to uncover? The time had come to face the storm head-on. Emma stood in front of the community center, rain still spattering the parking lot. She felt a mixture of excitement and dread as she pushed the door open, the warm air welcoming her into the bustling foyer. This was the setting for the meeting that promised to propel her forward, a chance to confront both her fears and the limits she had previously imposed on herself. However, the chatter and laughter echoed in her mind like thunder, reminding her of the uncertainty she carried like an umbrella in a storm. Navigating through the crowd, she searched for a spot in the back, hoping to remain unnoticed. But as she found her place in the circle of folding chairs, she caught sight of a few familiar faces, including a couple of the teens from the ice cream shop. A faint blush crept across her cheeks. What if they recognized her as just the girl who scoops ice cream? As she tried to shake off the self-consciousness, the facilitator, a poised woman in her 30s with an engaging smile, began the session. Instantly, Emma felt her heart race. This was not just about attending a meeting, it was a doorway to something infinite. Would she seize this moment or let it slip away? The facilitator invited attendees to share their goals and expectations. Each story that unfolded filled Emma with awe and trepidation. Here were people grappling with different challenges, yet each spoke with a burgeoning sense of purpose, a spark of authenticity she longed to emulate. As each individual shared, Emma's pulse quickened and her internal dialogue wrestled with her hesitation. What are you waiting for? Her inner voice chided. This is your chance. But what would she say? How could she distill all her ambitions and questions into words that resonated? Just as she contemplated retreating further into her chair, a voice beside her echoed her thoughts. I'm looking for direction, another participant blurted out, his tone both uncertain and resolute. The honest vulnerability of his admission struck a chord with Emma. She admired his bravery and felt it push at the boundaries of her own fear. If he could share such an open vulnerability, perhaps she could too. Taking a breath, she caught the facilitator's eye and raised her hand, her voice shaking but resolute. I guess I'm trying to discover how to be more than just an ice cream scooper. I want to connect, to make an impact. She paused, gathering her thoughts, even if it feels impossible right now. Her words hung in the air like uncoiling smoke, both uncomfortable and liberating. The nodding heads around her instilled a sense of solidarity, yet a knot of anxiety twisted tighter in her stomach. Would they understand her struggle? To her surprise, the facilitator smiled warmly. That's a noble ambition, Emma. What specific steps are you considering? At that moment, she recalled her earlier reflections: public speaking, empathy training. They weren't just lines on paper, they were stepping stones to the person she wanted to become. Clarity surged within her. This felt like a defining point. Well, I have some skills I want to develop, Emma articulated, her confidence simmering as she spoke. I've realized I need to confront my fear of speaking in public and get better at expressing myself without holding back. Gasps of encouragement filled the room as others resonated with her experience. With her nerves calming, Emma's revelation centered not on vulnerability, but on empowerment. What if her journey was valid and essential, not just for herself, but as a source of inspiration for others? As the session flowed into networking, conversations blossomed, and Emma actively engaged, practicing her skills and soaking in the richness of shared dreams. The more she spoke, the more she discovered a newfound strength that lay dormant within her. Yet, just when momentum surged, uncertainty slipped back in. Would this newfound confidence stand the test of time once she left this gathering? Could she maintain this momentum when faced with the daily grind and inevitable setbacks? Emma was aware that her internal storm would often threaten to disrupt clarity. But unbeknownst to her, as she forged connections, she was beginning to arm herself with tools to face those upcoming challenges head-on. Challenging herself to maintain this resolve, she promised to seek out follow-up conversations and hold herself accountable. An accountability partner before the week was over would be a concrete next step, she silently vowed. Just as the session concluded, Emma spotted a familiar face in the crowd. Mr. Thompson, her former employer, too engrossed in a discussion to notice her. A sudden rush of inkling struck her. What if she asked him for mentorship? Seeing him as a potential guide ignited an interior conflict. Would he view her as merely a former employee needing assistance, or might he recognize her growth? The question hung in the air like an unanswered riddle, electrifying her thoughts. As Emma prepared to leave, she felt a renewed conviction to embrace this next phase of her journey with intent. The storm inside was calm, but she understood new tempests would arise. Determined to cultivate this newfound growth, she made a mental note to reach out to Mr. Thompson. There was no turning back now. This was about more than self-discovery, it was about crafting her legacy. With her heart full of possibilities, she stepped out of the center into the night, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. Would Mr. Thompson see the transformation she was beginning to believe in, or would he merely view her as a reminder of who she once was? Emma stood still just outside the entrance, rain-streaked pavement gleaming under the streetlights, a realm of potential laid out before her. Thoughts of Mr. Thompson sparked a swirling storm in her mind as she wrestled with fear and the hope of newfound strength. Would he recognize her evolution, or would he dismiss her as a girl who simply scooped ice cream? During her shift the next day, she held on to that question, letting it haunt her thoughts like a persistent echo. As customers came and went, she resolved to reach out to him that evening. There'd be no avoiding it. Every scoop felt like a pound of weight holding her back. Her heart raced at the anticipation of a decision she was adamant about pursuing. As the last customers departed, Emma grabbed a mop and began to clean. The rhythmic swishing of the mop mirrored her thoughts. She envisioned her conversation with Mr. Thompson, wondering how times had shaped them both since her departure. The honesty and vulnerability she heard at the gathering bubbled up again in her mind. If she could speak openly about her ambitions there, why could she not do the same with him? Finally, as she folded the mop and washed her hands, she glanced at the clock. Time was slipping away, and the phone call she planned to make loomed closer. What if he laughed? What if he told her she was being foolish? Doubt seeped into her resolve, wrapping around her like vines threatening to choke off her aspirations. But then she thought about the stories shared in that room, the vulnerable admissions, the desperate quests for clarity, and felt a flicker of something powerful, the desire to embrace her journey despite fears. After closing up, she buried herself in her thoughts on the way home. Would she cling to hesitance or step into the unknown? Her decision blossomed with urgency. Underneath the soft glow of her bedroom lamp, she opened her laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Perhaps an email would convey her intent more clearly than fumbling through a phone call. Subject: seeking guidance. She typed. With meticulous care, she poured herself into the message, reflecting on what she wanted from Mr. Thompson. Dear Mr. Thompson, I hope this message finds you well. Since leaving the shop, I've realized how vital it is for me to pursue personal growth, and I find myself wrestling with some uncertainties about my next steps. As the words flowed, she outlined her recent experiences, including the meeting and her newfound dream of making an impact in her community. The thought of mentorship pulsed through her. I hope I can count on your support in my endeavors. I would appreciate any advice you could lend, if you're willing to help. Clicking send felt monumental, like setting a small boat on an expansive ocean. The waves of anxiety surged, and Emma took a deep breath, expelling her trepidation with every exhale. Standing there in her room, she allowed herself to envision what mentorship might feel like, a guide alongside her as she navigated the uncharted waters of her aspirations. But as night settled in, it dawned on her, sending that email was just the commencement of a demanding path ahead, one that involved not merely waiting for responses, but one that required constant nurturing of her growth. She needed to cultivate resilience as the days unfolded. What obstacles lay ahead in this pursuit of clarity? In that moment, a question solidified in her mind. How far was she willing to push herself in order to transform from the girl who scooped ice cream into a person of influence and impact? With thoughts coiling around the next steps she needed to take, Emma realized she must actively seek opportunities to strengthen her public speaking and connect with like-minded individuals. She needed a plan, one that involved workshops, maybe even online courses. Her ambitions grew within her, taking root in her very being until she could practically feel them igniting her spirit with every thought. No more would she allow self-doubt to dictate her path. She had sent the email, but a deeper resolve emerged. She would cultivate her voice, arm herself with knowledge, and begin to carve out this new chapter of her life with purpose. The next phase of her evolution awaited just beneath the horizon, glowing with the allure of the unknown. But now, she sensed a slight shift. Soon, the battle with self-perception would be accompanied by a more complex confrontation with the expectations she placed upon herself. Would it be enough to merely set goals, or would she need to dive into discomfort to truly blossom? With a gleam of excitement dancing in her heart, Emma closed her laptop and imagined the possibilities stretching before her like an open road. Emma awoke the next morning with a renewed sense of purpose, the weight of uncertainty now replaced by a thrilling current of anticipation. The email had been sent. Now, it was time to prepare for whatever that next step might entail. She mentally rejuvenated herself with the thought of a fresh start, one that began with tangible actions, not just contemplation. Breakfast was a quick affair, the melody of clinking dishes underscoring her racing thoughts. She flipped through her phone, scrolling for workshops in public speaking and community engagement. Minutes turned to hours as she meticulously compiled potential courses, researching their reviews, costs, and schedules. Each new program felt like a doorway into a realm she had barely dared to envision. As she locked onto a workshop on persuasive speaking, a rush of courage surged through her. It would be held at a local library and taught by a renowned speaker. Maybe this was her chance, the chance to learn and, more importantly, practice being heard. She picked up her phone to register, pausing only for a fraction of a second before pressing submit. Once confirmed, the adrenaline pumped through her veins. Yet along with the excitement came an inkling of anxiety. What if she bombed? What if she was just another girl indifferent to her audience, lost among those who really deserved the spotlight? Discomfort coiled in her stomach, but she chose to dismiss it. With a deep breath, she made a list of the topics she wished to master: clarity, confidence, and presence. Each word became a mantra echoing in her mind. She would memorize her content, practice in the mirror, and even record herself to perfect her tone and accentuation. This wasn't merely about delivery, it was about owning her narrative, forging an identity that fit the powerful ambitions budding inside her. Days blended into a rhythm of study and practice. Emma woke early, often rehearsing in front of her mirror while sipping her morning coffee, her reflections slowly morphing from hesitant to resolute. She filled notebooks with notes on effective communication techniques and even attempted various techniques to build confidence, like power posing before stepping outside. One evening, feeling particularly bold, she decided it was time to delve into social media groups focused on her interests. She crafted posts about her ambitions. Just stating them was an exercise in vulnerability that sent shivers down her spine. Each like and comment became fuel for her burgeoning self-confidence. Yet, self-doubt clung to her relentlessly. Would anyone even care about her journey? Would they see her as just another person attempting to claim a slice of the spotlight? When she engaged with others, a voice inside still whispered that she wasn't worthy. On her first day at the public speaking workshop, Emma stood outside the library, heart pounding. The air was rabid with anticipation, but she was also acutely aware of the self-imposed pressure mounting within. What if she failed to make connections? What if she stumbled and faltered before a crowd? She couldn't retreat now. Courage was no longer optional. As she stepped into the room, the warmth enveloped her, softening the shouting doubts. She introduced herself, meeting the eyes of a few fellow attendees. In those brief interactions, she began to see fragments of herself within their aspirations and fears. They were all here to grow, to stretch beyond their comfort zones, and that commonality ignited the spark she needed. The workshop commenced, and as speakers from diverse backgrounds shared their stories, Emma felt an intoxicating mix of fear and admiration. An inexplicable yearning gripped her heart. She wanted to share her journey, too. But the flicker of anxiety nagged at the edges of her mind. How would they perceive her story? With the day winding down, a challenge loomed. The instructors announced an impromptu speaking opportunity, where participants would share a few sentences about their goals. Emma's heart raced at the thought of stepping up, her reality colliding with her aspirations. She hesitated. Was she ready, truly ready to lay her dreams bare before this audience? Just as the thought threatened to overwhelm her, she felt a stirring within. This was her moment. Would she let fear govern her decisions, or would she carve a place for herself in this room of hopefuls? As she stood before the group, she felt the tides of doubt rise, yet them met their swell with newfound strength. Standing tall, she cleared her throat, ready to cast aside uncertainty and seize this chance to be heard. But what she didn't know yet was how this decision to confront her fear would simply be the beginning of a much larger struggle with the very nature of her ambitions. Would she truly be able to embrace herself and her journey when she stepped back into a world that might not be ready to accept her evolution? Emma stood in front of the ice cream shop, the familiarity of the place now woven into her identity, but this time, it was different, bright with a sense of purpose. The initial anxieties of her job interview and her quest for validation had transformed into a solidified commitment to her aspirations. She had taken the plunge into her own growth journey, public speaking workshops, mentorship, and self-exploration. Each step had molded her into a recognized figure within the community, revitalizing her self-belief to unprecedented heights. Having returned to the ice cream shop, Emma felt the walls infused with memories of challenges faced and conquered. Mr. Thompson greeted her with a nod of recognition. He had witnessed her evolution firsthand. A girl who once trembled at the thought of criticism was now someone who commanded respect through her actions. "You have grown into quite the ice cream ambassador, Emma," he said, a hint of pride lingering in his tone. It was a pivotal moment of acknowledgement, virtue given to her confident stride, but it also came with unspoken expectations. That day, the shop pulsed with activity as Emma expertly guided the flow of customers, balancing order fulfillment with genuine engagement. She had a way of tying her sincere interest in their preferences to a delightful experience. Her confidence flourished in the chaos of the busy afternoon. Conversations flowed freely, laughter erupted, even the littlest of customers found comfort in her warm demeanor. Her earlier fears had been alchemized into an understanding of navigating connections, highlighting the beauty of empathy and spirited communication. However, as the day wore on, a storm brewing outside mirrored her internal conflicts. The magnitude of her growth suddenly felt daunting. Could she sustain this momentum when faced with the unknown? Reflecting on her aspirations, she felt an urge to reach beyond familiarity. This wasn't merely a job anymore, it was a platform to inspire, to make an indelible impact in her community. When a customer of familiar face approached her, Emma knew she couldn't retreat into the background of uncertainty. It was Mia, one of her former co-workers, who had scoffed at her ambitions. "I heard you've been putting yourself out there," Mia remarked, skepticism signaling behind her words. Instead of bracing for critique, Emma felt fortified by her experiences. "Yes, I'm pursuing every opportunity one can. It's empowering to focus on growth," she replied, her voice steady, all her countless hours of practice coalescing into a tenacious presence. Meeting Mia's gaze, she felt the weight of her evolution reaffirmed. Each interaction, whether with friends, customers, or old adversaries, became a test of her resolve, each a chance to shine in ways she once only dreamt about. "I'm also doing a presentation at the community center next week about facing fears," Emma added boldly. The look of surprise on Mia's face signaled not just acknowledgement of Emma's growth, but an inflection point. It was more significant than just a statement. It epitomized her journey from doubt to empowered self-expression, revealing the strength of persistence. As the day ended, Mr. Thompson called her over. "You've exceeded my expectations, Emma. I'd like to introduce you as the new customer experience ambassador for the shop. You'd be helping shape our engagement strategies. What do you think?" The request sent exhilaration surging through her. This was not just an ordinary job, but a concrete recognition of her transformed capabilities. "I would love that," she exclaimed, the weight of her passion illuminating her words. Each vowel and consonant aligned to amplify her commitment, an unyielding promise to embrace every opportunity. That evening, looking out at the stillness of the rain-soaked streets, she reveled in the cascade of emotions that washed over her: triumph, joy, anticipation. The real prize was not just the title, but the affirming voice within that echoed her worth. She had shifted from a timid girl who feared rejection to a girl who proudly claimed her dreams. Moreover, Emma resolved to invite others to step outside of their shadows, using her platform to acknowledge the significance of chasing aspirations, urging even those with doubts to listen to their own ambitions. As she closed her eyes that night, a final thought crossed her consciousness: every storm eventually cleared, and within those fulfillments, there existed the scope for not just survival, but a thriving existence grounded in purpose. Tomorrow, she would rise with renewed vigor, ready to embark on this next chapter filled with possibilities. With her heart euphonic with gratitude, she understood one fundamental truth: transformation doesn't just illuminate the path for oneself, it opens the way for others to follow. Emma realized she had not just conquered her fears, but had ignited an unwavering spirit destined to inspire. There was nothing left to prove. She had achieved the dream she once feared would elude her grasp. Subscribe immediately to this channel if you want to keep hearing these incredible, transformative stories. Leave a like now to show your support and feed the algorithm, ensuring our community grows. Comment below to share your thoughts and reactions about this journey. Your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need inspiration today. Don't wait even one more second to spread this message of triumph. Together, let's inspire each other to conquer our fears.